Welcome to another episode of the Website 101 podcast. This is the podcast for people who want to learn more about building and managing websites. Hello, I am one of your co-hosts. My name is Amanda Lutz, and with me today is Mike Mella. Hey, Mike.
Hi, Amanda. How are you?
I'm doing fine, thanks. How are you?
I'm well, and Sean couldn't be with us today, so it's just you and me, right?
Yeah. We'll see.
He'll be back on a future episode.
We'll see if it's more informative or if it's less entertaining. Oh. Come back soon, Sean.
Yeah, website101podcast.com/contact. Let us know how you felt about just us
That's
doing
right.
this by ourselves. Yeah.
So today's topic has been in the news for months and months and months. And in fact, we're slow to get on it. We are like the last people, I think, in the entire universe to talk about the WordPress controversy. And mostly I avoided it because I'm trying to move away from everything WordPress related. But once I started reading about all of the facts and the important points that are going into this topic, it can affect more than just WordPress. It can affect, eventually other content management systems, other programming languages, a bunch of other things. So it's probably good to talk about this, and we will try to keep it high level, 101 level. And also this is going to be a really great listen for, small business owners and people trying to manage their websites on their own.
Yeah, that's right. There's a lot of, like you said, there's a lot of takeaways you can get from it, even if you're not a WordPress user. I mean, I consider myself not a WordPress user, but I'm learning a lot from this controversy. And yeah, so we're going to tackle it with our own little spin on it. And here we go. So Amanda, can you summarize real quick before we get into it in any depth, what exactly is going on? If you met someone in an elevator and they said, what is the deal with this WordPress thing that's going on? What would you say in 30 seconds?
I'm glad that you didn't limit it to a 30-second elevator sales pitch because it's going to take a bit more than that. But
yeah,
for anyone who doesn't know, WordPress is a content management system. So you can log into the back end, you can add your content, and then that's it. You can just have content editors that just do that. And then there's also the templating code that makes the front end of the website, which would be what everybody sees when they go to look at it. So that is the overall a content management system. With WordPress specifically, there are actually two versions, and I feel like a lot of people get these confused.
Yes.
There is the original WordPress.org, which is an open source content management system. And it was developed back in 2003 by these two guys, Matt, I'm not even going to try to say his last name, I'm going to mess it up.
Mullenweg.
Mullenweg. There you go, Matt Mullenweg. And this other guy, Mike Little. And that's the last we hear about Mike Little for the rest of today's episode.
Right.
So the whole point of open source software is that all of the code, so all of the instructions that make the CMS work, is publicly available. Everyone can view it. Everyone can modify it. Everyone can distribute it as part of their own projects. This is, of course, the complete opposite of Microsoft Word. You can't go and look at the source of that. It is what it is. You just use it. But open source software is supposed to have this really great community that is going to allow developers to get in and make changes and help with bug fixes and adapt it to specific needs so that they can share with their own little sub community. And it's supposed to be this really great idea of collaboration and promoting innovation. And so that was the original WordPress.org. You go to WordPress.org and you download a whole bunch of PHP files and you have to put them on your own server, and congratulations, there's your website.
Yeah.
A couple of years after that, in 2005, which is what I found, is that Matt then went and made WordPress.com. Now, WordPress.com is a managed hosting service, specifically it's just the WordPress software. And so you go sign up to WordPress.org, and yes, they do have a free tier, but the whole point of it is for more customization, for more choices of plugins and themes, and for hosting bigger sites and stuff, you have to start paying money for it. And so Matt made this with this company. He created a company called Automatic. And so they're using the free WordPress.org software, but now they're profiting from it, which is great. Why not?
Okay, so
why not be able to do that?
Let me stop you right there real quick,
Yes.
and I'll see if I've got you so far. First of all, I recently learned Automatic, his company name, has 2 T's in it, and that's because it has the word Matt in the name, which is his first name. That's a little tidbit for you that you can take away and tell and to annoy people at your Christmas party this season.
Yeah.
So here we go. So Matt makes this software. Matt and what was the dude's name?
Mike.
Something Little. Mike.
Mike Little.
Same name as me. I should remember that. So he makes this software. It's free to make a blog or a website. And hey, go ahead and use it. Put it on your servers and make your own websites. And then he sort of realized, well, some people, it's so simple that why don't I offer a hosting platform where you get the free software and you don't even have to put it on a server and set up all that. We'll do it for you. So that's what the .com is. It's like the same software, but we'll handle the setting up of it. And it's pretty much with the click of a button. Isn't that correct?
Yes.
Okay, I roughly have it right there.
Yes. Yeah. And that's not to say that for every user who has gone and signed up for WordPress.com, I don't know that they actually have their own spin of a WordPress CMS installed just for them. Like they could have, because it's all their code and because it's all open source, they could have done something so that many users could log into just this one WordPress install. Yes. And it's like separated out by, like the content is separated out by user. Like I am not privy to their inner workings. I don't know how they've got that set up.
I think you're actually right about that now that you mention it, because I remember hearing a story about that. It was actually with an interview with Matt Mullenweg many years ago. And he did say that something to the effect of there's millions of sites running on technically one WordPress install on that thing, which blew my mind. But yeah, I guess
it's
way
impressive.
That the thing works, that's possible. So okay. So continue.
That's the groundwork. That is the difference between WordPress.org, which is, and I had to research this today, WordPress.org is run by a nonprofit organization. But it is run by this nonprofit organization that Matt Mullenweg is on the board.
He's on the board of the nonprofit, but he also runs or owns the .com
he also
for-profit.
Owns the .com
thing.
for profit.
Got it. Okay.
So any decision that he makes with one is going to affect the other.
Yep.
And vice versa.
Shifty.
So as WordPress becomes more popular, and of course people are figuring out ways to profit off of it. You've got plugin developers who are charging for their software. Fantastic, get it. You've got companies who are like, oh, hey, you can host with us. We are like specifically hosting for I almost said WordPerfect again, for WordPress websites, which is great,
right.
Like get that money, whatever that we have gotten money from, like making WordPress sites. Fantastic. Yes. Over the last couple months, this big controversy came out. And what I've been and I'm going to just try to like glance over this stuff because it is the controversy, but it's really just like the tip of the iceberg of what's actually going on. So there's been a lot of conflicts between Automatic, who is the owner of WordPress.com, and this company called WP Engine, who has become one of the more popular WordPress hosting providers. So WP Engine is this company all off on its own, but they're like, hey, go get your WordPress.org files and then come back to us and you can host your WordPress sites here. All of our servers are specifically configured for it and optimized and resources and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
So is it like a competitor to WordPress.com's managed hosting?
No, because with the WordPress.com, you don't need to install anything. You just go and sign up and start using it.
Oh, right. Like we said earlier about it, it could be all
Yeah,
one
because it's
thing.
managed
Yeah,
hosting.
got it.
Whereas WP Engine, like you have to go in, and it's like any other shared hosting package that you're going to get, unless I'm mistaken. Again, I don't know their inner business workings.
I mean, I guess the truth is I've never used WP Engine, but I assume because there's things like, what is it, Scriptaculous and stuff on a lot of servers, you could probably install WordPress from within their hosting thing by clicking something. You don't literally have to go download it and bring it over and probably. I don't know.
Yeah, but a lot of hosting companies, even just regular virtual hosting companies, will also have that.
Yes.
Click here to install WordPress. Hooray. So I mean, it's not like WP Engine is the only place that's doing this. And they've been around for a while. So the conflict came up because Matt Mullenweg criticized WP Engine for allegedly leveraging WordPress's open source contributions to generate substantial profits. Sorry, this is like a quote that I read online, which I think is so funny, without adequately supporting the community.
Okay.
The open source community. No,
yeah,
I guess
so
the WordPress community.
Right. So his whole thing about WordPress being free is that it's free, everyone can use it, and everyone should help contribute to the open source community that is WordPress. And he feels that WP Engine, or at least he suddenly feels that WP Engine has leveraged the free availability of WordPress to make a business that makes lots of money, and they're not contributing enough to the open source community, according to him.
According to him. So Matt demanded a portion of WP Engine's revenue.
And that would be a lot of money, I would think. That's a big company
of money. Yeah.
And they also, I'm sure you'll get to this, I guess, but WP Engine develops plugins, very popular plugins for WordPress, correct?
Yes. So I'm getting, and you're right, I am getting to that.
Okay.
So in September, WordPress.org, remember this is the not-for-profit, banned WP Engine from accessing its plugin repository.
And that's huge.
And that's huge. If anyone has ever had, WordPress has its place. If you just want to blog, yes. If you want like blog posts, if you want a couple pages, fantastic. If you want to do anything beyond that, you basically need to install a plugin or have a developer who is like very familiar and very comfortable with getting into WordPress. Because again, it is all open source. You know, many developers could get in and do that.
Right.
So, but the fact that WordPress.org banned all of the customers from WP Engine from using any of the plugins. So it's like they wouldn't be able to install any new ones. They wouldn't be able to make any updates. And again, if anyone out there is on a WordPress site, there are updates about every minute and a half.
Yes, indeed.
It's happening constantly. It is ridiculous. So what they said, what WordPress.org said was that so limiting access to the plugins, of course, is going to potentially expose the WP Engine customers to security risks because they can't install updates. Mm-hmm. WP Engine then filed a lawsuit accusing Automatic of trademark misuse, defamation, and other violations.
Yeah, I heard about that. I don't quite know. We don't have to get into it. It's probably a very small part of this whole thing, but trademark misuse, like,
because I think it goes back to the open sourceness. So it's like if you create the software that's got an open source license that says, hey, everybody use it, and then somebody uses it, but you don't like how they're using it, you can't then sue them and like limit the access to like the core components of it, is my guess. Again, I'm not a lawyer. I haven't like read anything about it, but that's my guess about the trademark stuff.
Well, but isn't it though that WP Engine, the for-profit thing, is filing a lawsuit against the Automatic because Automatic has used WP Engine's trademarks. Isn't that the accusation, or am I getting that wrong?
No,
Like
because I don't know. I didn't like really read
Yeah.
into any of the legal stuff
Okay.
about it, but from what I got, I think it's just more of a WP Engine saying, "Hey, Automatic, if you're telling us to cease and desist, then like you're not allowed to because of your
Yeah.
trademark that you've left as open source. Of course, we can
Right.
use it." That's my guess.
Oh,
but
I
don't
see.
know.
I see. So they're misusing their own trademark by saying it's copyrighted when it's actually open source, something like that.
That's my guess.
Roughly that. Okay.
Yeah.
Got it. Yep.
So, it gets better. They become toddlers in the playground. So there's a very popular WordPress plugin called Advanced Custom Fields. Now, again,
Yes.
like I was saying before, WordPress is fine for blog posts and for pages. But basically what you get with it is like the entry title, a WYSIWYG field. Maybe you can do categories. Maybe you can do like a couple pictures. At the heart, yes, there are fancy content editors. Yes, things can be added, et cetera, et cetera. But at its heart, that's what it is. So there's a very popular plugin called Advanced Custom Fields that will let you add a whole bunch of different field types to the pages, to the blog posts, to the if you in the functions.php, if you create custom entry types, or using a different plugin, create custom entry types, you can use this plugin to add custom fields to that.
Right.
So, and this Advanced Custom Fields plugin is owned by WP Engine. They made it.
Right.
So Automatic went and forked Advanced Custom Fields. And for anybody who knows Git or is familiar with Git, basically, if somebody has a Git repo and it's public, anybody can go in and be like, "Oh, I like the status of this project right now. I'm going to fork it," which is kind of like making a copy of it and sort of start taking it in my own direction. So I'm starting with where you are right now, and I'm gonna make it my own. Again, open source, community, right? Like
Now
that's basically how forking works,
custom
right?
Fields. Yeah. Is Advanced Custom Fields that plugin, is that open source?
Well, yeah, because it's all. I mean, yes, you have to pay for the license, but the actual code itself is open source.
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
Okay, so Automatic forked Advanced Custom Fields and decided to call it Secure Custom Fields.
Yeah. Smart. Clever name.
So now, again, this kind of bully who is stomping around the playground saying, you have to share your lunch with me because it came from my kitchen, something like that, who knows. Now they're like being even bossier, and it's like, oh, well, you know what? Since we're already in this beef, I'm going to make a copy of the plugin that you make, and now it's mine. So, I mean, because it's a copy, it is theirs. So it's I mean, and they're probably going to say something about like, fair consumerism, and if you can use ours, then we can use theirs. Anyway, so this has alarmed a lot of developers who rely on the plugin for their WordPress solutions. Because if you are not on WP Engine, is WordPress now going to force you to use their secure custom fields instead?
Mm-hmm.
So you've got to go back and you've got to change content. You got to change your templates. You got to change a whole bunch of all of these other things. So like WordPress.com basically stole WP Engine's Advanced Custom Fields and made it secure custom fields instead.
Yeah. And not only what you said about the fear of, what plugin am I going to use or whatever. I'm sure there are a lot of plugin developers. There are people who make good money building plugins for WordPress. And I bet a lot of them are sweating bullets thinking, oh, I guess WordPress is not above ripping off a popular plugin. Maybe they'll rip off my plugin next.
Don't piss them off.
Yeah, that'd be scary. Okay.
So there are growing concerns about increasing centralization and potential future control over other tools. Understandably. And then the cherry on top, this is the last point, the cherry on top, which I think is like the funniest thing at all. Remember before we were talking about how WordPress.org is the nonprofit and you can just like go and download the files and put it wherever you want? Mm-hmm. Matt Mullenweg added a checkbox on the WordPress.org login pages requiring users to confirm that they are not affiliated with WP Engine.
Yes. So I've heard about this. Now, how in the hell is that possibly legally binding in any way? Like what I don't even know how he would. It's ridiculous, of course.
It is ridiculous. But then that comes down to it again. It's like the fact that this is like it's open source software, and yes, there are different licensing levels for open source software. But if all of this time the license has been, hey, use it in good health, but if something messes up, don't blame us for it. I don't know that's what their license level is, but I assume that's what it's at because it's been very open all this time. For them to all of a sudden turn around and be like, you can't use it. Now we're going to change the licensing agreement, which I guess big corporations do all the time, but it just seems so petty.
Yeah, doing it so explicitly that a regular user who may not know anything about this stuff has to suddenly check a box.
Like I don't even care. I just want to have a web page for my yoga business, like whatever it is. And now they've got to get dragged all through this. Oh
boy.
So I think that the biggest problem is that Matt Mullenweg is both the CEO of Automatic and also on the board for WordPress.org.
Conflict of interest, for sure.
Big conflict of interest. Yeah, he's the director of the WordPress Foundation. That's who takes care of WordPress.org. Okay. So I think that in the end, what this comes down to is if you are, invested in the WordPress ecosystem, you gotta just stay informed and I guess stay tuned and figure out what this all is going to mean to you in the end. And the thing is, it's like if WordPress can now change their minds about this, can they start to change their minds about, hey, you're using our WordPress software. That gives us the right now to like go through all of your content and use it for our AI training. Because there's been a lot of controversies about that. Adobe has kind of gotten hit with that a little bit. So it's, could one day somebody at WordPress wake up and be like, nope, and just like turn off all of the WordPress sites. And what is some statistic that like, isn't it like over 70%? Or
it's
over
it's
60?
A third of the internet or something like that. Yeah.
But still, it's a big number.
Yeah. If they suddenly required everyone to put that checkbox on saying, hey, we're not affiliated with, or something like that.
Yeah. So they're just going to probably not randomly, I'm sure they have their reasons, but we're going to take down this company because they won't share their profits with us. And if they can do it to WP Engine, who are they going to turn their sites on next? Right.
And from what I can tell, this is largely between the WordPress, Matt's WordPress people and WP Engine. And from what I understand, Matt is really coming out looking like the Drake in the Drake and Kendrick thing. He is not coming off well. People think he's basically a jerk for doing this. Like they're not siding with the WordPress, as far as I can tell. I don't know if you've heard differently.
I have not heard differently, but like I said, until I started doing research for this episode, I was really just trying to stay out of it. I really didn't need to get my head into it unless I absolutely needed to.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's a great sort of summary of what's going on. Now, what can we draw from this? Being WordPress developers or users or otherwise, I'm sure there's all kinds of things we can pull out of this. I'll start with one.
Yeah.
And that is, so when you're relying on, and I'm not saying this as a way to talk people out of doing this, but like if you're relying on something as open source and as free and whatever as the WordPress ecosystem has been, you're now using, the software, you got to keep an eye on updates for that and so on. there's 30 or 40 plugins you're going to need to install, all made by different developers, many of whom are probably not vetted to be actually working well with the latest version of WordPress. I'm sure people have encountered that, where you click a button and this is updated, but it's not compatible with the newest version of something else. When you have all that, I feel like there's a lot more you have to stay on top of, and whenever a controversy like this happens, especially with regard to the advanced custom fields plugin thing, you're at risk of having any number of parts of your site be compromised, or your entire business. There are businesses that make a living. We've interviewed some on this podcast, building WordPress sites for clients, like many of them. So I feel like one benefit of using a more, how should we say, for-profit, we use a lot of for-profit CMSs, you and I and Sean. We use Craft. We talked about Expression Engine. Expression Engine actually is free now, but I'm not sure how their business runs. Statamic, where they are run by companies and you do pay a small license to get it. And the plugin developers do get vetted. Often the plugins are, monitored to make sure that they're, up to speed or whatever. I feel like in that case, you can go to one place. You can go to their blog and read, oh, there's a breaking change coming up. It's going to affect you in this way. Get ready. Here it is. But in this case, I feel like if I was a WordPress guy, a WordPress developer, I would be panicking, because I'd be like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do. I could go to WordPress. I could read their take on it, but maybe I'm on WP Engine, or maybe I just used ACF, and I'm like, I don't know, should I take their word for what's going on? Like, it just sounds like a nightmare, because there's no source of truth for what you're going for. It's not like you can go to this one blog by the company and read it, and that's what you know what I mean? It's you're kind of left on your own to the wolves sort of thing to figure it out yourself. It must be really scary.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially, so I think that if you are a savvy, experienced WordPress developer, maybe you can figure out how to work this to your advantage, like straddle the fence, be on both sides, you know what WordPress is up to and doing, and et cetera, but also know how you can leverage the WP Engine side. So if that entire WordPress universe is going to splinter into two factions, take advantage of both of them, I guess.
Yes.
I do know that a lot of other content management systems right now are pushing their services, their products hard. They're trying to pick up anybody who wants to leave, which, obviously the users, the site owner's prerogative.
Yeah, I guess that's true. Like, if you're someone who does develop WordPress sites for clients, like, and that's part of your business model, the least you should be doing is, because your clients might be hearing about this, knowing that they're on WordPress, you should at least be reaching out and saying, look, you may have heard about this controversy. Don't sweat it. Don't worry. We've got it under control. We know what to do for your website. Just leave it to us. We're WordPress professionals. Yeah. Even if you're not, even if you're still figuring it out, say that to your clients to put them at ease. That's what I would be doing.
Absolutely.
Anyway.
But I do also want to point out, yes, this is all happening with WordPress right now, but I just want to talk about the open source environment, the open source world for a little bit. There is, and every semester I tell my students about this, there's a very famous story about the guy who broke the internet. And it all comes down to, Node.js with their NPM modules. And the funny story is that this guy made hundreds and hundreds of modules and published them on npmjs.com, but they all did really basic JavaScript functions. So why wouldn't you just use basic JavaScript? Who knows? Maybe this guy was just experimenting. Maybe he was just playing. Maybe he was just getting practice making modules and publishing them and seeing how that works. I am not at all sure. But this guy got a cease and desist from the people who make JavaScript saying, hey, you're copying our code. Stop it. And he panicked. and he just straight up deleted all of these modules that he had made. And over time, these modules were starting to become a little bit popular. Again, I don't know why somebody would install a module to do a thing that JavaScript does on its own, whatever. But if you've got somebody who's made a module, and then somebody else makes a module that's dependent on that, and someone else makes a module that's dependent on that, if that base all of a sudden gets deleted, nothing is going to work. And there were a lot of big sites that came down when this guy panicked and just straight up deleted all of the stuff that he had published and put out there.
Yeah.
So I mean, there are so many parts of the internet that are just on this delicate balance of things working by people who have been created by people who have full-time jobs, have families, who have lives, and made this thing for fun. And, oh, hey, look, it got popular. That's kind of neat. And then they abandon it or delete it, or it breaks and they don't have time to fix it. The internet is dependent on that all the time.
Yeah, I've certainly used a lot of plugins for Expression Engine, especially. This is back in the day. I'm sure they're all great plugins these days, but yeah, I've used plugins that are where the developer just vanishes. And, he's like, I put this out there, use it, whatever, you can use it if you want. There's some problem and you reach out and you try to get tech support and it's just, nope, there's nothing. So yeah, you do have to be aware of that stuff when you're using, especially free open source software. That's usually the trade-off. They're not supporting it, right? And
even if you want to go deeper, I mean, think about it. HTML is a free language.
Yep.
CSS is a free language. JavaScript is a free programming language. And I mean, it's not so much, it's not as bad now, but how often do you still go and check out caniuse.com or dot whatever it is to see if some CSS property is going to work across all of the browsers? Any of our older listeners, they're going to remember way back in the day doing a bunch of really hacky stuff because Internet Explorer 6 and Internet Explorer 11 just didn't follow the same CSS standards that all of the other browsers were already implementing. So again, this is some company has made some decision that is affecting the developers and affecting people who own websites, right down at that really base level. This has been happening since the beginning of the internet, but it's just, this is really vocal and really out there and in your face. And, I think what it comes down to, yes, it's two companies butting heads, but I think what it comes down to is, again, this discussion about open source software.
Yeah, it's funny that the for-profit, non-profit, open source, closed source controversy, it goes way back. I remember in the early, I guess it was around when WordPress was first coming out, there was a CMS called Mambo, and it might even still exist. I don't know. But at one point it was free. I think if I recall correctly, it was free, and some part of the community wanted to make it for profit maybe, and they wanted to become a for-profit company, and others didn't, and it split, and the split became Joomla, which is another sort of popular CMS even today, I think.
The exact same thing happened. It was Movable Type that started charging their users, and the users were like, nope. And that's how WordPress started.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah.
So, so that happens a lot. It happens all the time. It's
I was just going to say, I can remember when I worked at this company, at that time, I was the web developer in the company, and my boss came up and told me about that controversy between Mambo and Joomla, and said, we basically have to decide which one are we going to go with, and there was I remember there was a logo design contest for Joomla at the time.
Oh, wow.
Back when people used to do that. It was whatever, it's a nerdy thing to have to worry about, but I remember it vividly, it was a big deal back then. So
yeah. Well, I was even I was complaining yesterday. I was trying to use this free online tool to do WCAG accessibility testing, and it wasn't working. And I became unreasonably angry that this free tool just stopped working. I had no
That I
control
rely
over
on
it.
every
I
day.
didn't set it up, but it was like, you're free, but you're supposed to work. So
Yeah.
we always got to keep our eyes on that.
Yeah, it's funny. You're right. It does all, and it's like I'm sure there are also in this case there are a lot of, or maybe I'm wrong about this. I would think there's a lot of WordPress themes that you can buy that are themselves using advanced custom fields. Would that be possible?
Yeah. Probably,
And
yeah.
therefore they would be at risk of, if they think it's not going to get updated in the future because WordPress won't let them update. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I think there's like a tower, like a Jenga tower of things built on other things that could come crashing down. Yeah.
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 So,
wow.
yeah.
Wild.
So yeah,
well,
for a topic that I was trying to avoid for a very long time, it ended up giving me a couple really good giggles as I was researching what was going on.
Yeah, isn't it funny? It's just like you said, it's petty earlier. It is so petty. Like it's not even a controversy that's kind of buried in legalese and stuff. It's like really stupid stuff these guys are doing. Like makes everyone look dumb.
It is, and I agree with you. But at the same time, I have always been very do something to get that cash,
Yeah.
And so if my opinion is that if WordPress wants to suddenly, be charging people for stuff, then okay. What I can't help but wonder is why are they specifically targeting WP Engine? Like, is there something else going on with that? I don't know.
Yeah. And this whole thing about they claim that they're not contributing enough to the open source community when they use the WordPress stuff. Like, I don't know if that's like all of a sudden that's a thing that everyone's required to do. Like, I bet there's tons of WordPress developers who never contribute anything to the WordPress community, the open source community. They just build sites for clients and that's that. Like it's what would they have to say about them? And I don't know.
Yeah,
it's
I don't know. So I mean, there could be more changes on the horizon. I guess we'll just have to sit back with some popcorn.
That's right. If you need help navigating this, reach out to any one of us.
Yes,
we'll be happy to help you. Yeah. Okay. Wow. Exciting.
Yeah.
Anything else?
That's it. I think it's a good topic, and I think it's a good place to stop.
Okay. I think we covered it pretty well for people who don't use WordPress every single day. It's in the news, so we learned what we could, and you summarized it very well. So nice work there. All right. So that's it for today. Check us out on YouTube, Lunch Bites, every first and third Wednesday.
Yes.
At 11:30 Eastern. Damn it.
11:30
Why don't I
Eastern,
write this down? I'll just write it down. Is it written down on this thing? It probably is.
I don't know.
Anyway. And Sean will be back soon. Please tell your friends, like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.
Bye, everyone.